Hi, welcome to Expert Talks. This is the interview series with thought leaders in the AI analytics and transformation space. My name is Mahadevann Iyerr, Mahaa for short. I'm your host for today, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of Managed Marketplace for On-Demand Actionable Analytics. Our guest for today is Vijoe Mathew. Vijoe is the Senior Global Director for Analytics at AB InBev. Prior to AB InBev, Vijoe has worked as Advanced Analytics Leader at Honeywell. He's also led analytics in almost all areas of retail at TESCO. Vijoe brings over 18 years of experience in analytics and data science leadership. He's a B Masters in Industrial Management and also a Six Sigma Black Belt. Vijoe, thank you so much for making time and speaking to us at Expert Talk.
Thanks, Maha, for the opportunity. My journey with Maha goes to my TESCO days, so I know Maha for more than a decade. So thanks for the opportunity, for sure.
Great, thanks again, Vijoe. So, Vijoe, let's talk broadly about given your experience in the data science space, right? What are the few factors that you think are extremely critical for analytics to create impact?
Yeah. So every company, right, when they're using AI analytics, whichever term you're going to use, right, or you're going to use data, right, it has to serve a purpose, right? It has to create some value for the company, right? Typically, if you look at any company, right, you have to increase its revenue by doing certain things, or you should reduce overheads, right? That's the two ways a company can be more profitable. You can keep your revenues steady, but you can reduce your overheads that increase your profitability, or you have to significantly improve your sales itself to increase your profitability. So typically, for me, analytics has to serve one of these purposes, right? And the most important thing in analytics that sometimes people very much underestimate is the need for domain understanding, right? None of the analytics professionals are domain experts. Analytics is data science is a domain agnostic science, right? Today we work on marketing, tomorrow we're working on logistics, third day we're working on supply chain, right? But it's very important for you to partner with the right colleagues in the business or subject matter experts in the business to understand a business problem statement, right? Second thing is, not every business problem statement can be solved using analytics. So you should have a good understanding of problem solving that you're going to take. Is it a solution that can be solved using the data that you have? Third thing is understanding the data maturity for an organization. Many a times what we see, Maha, is we have this dream of doing big things, but you find that it's not something that you can do today or tomorrow. Maybe you have to wait for 3 months or 6 months or a year, because data maturity becomes very important in analytics. Do analytics at scale, right? And fourth, today, as we speak in the market, is having the right skill set of people. Why I'm saying this is 10 years back, analytics was all about data scientists, right? And analytics was done as analytics as service. Everybody used to build a solution, and then somebody else will replicate the same solution for different businesses, different geographies, and they run it manually with basic automation. And what we are seeing is that, the team sizes and the investments that is required for building such a team, it's huge. It doesn't make sense for the business. But today, data science skill set is beyond data science. We need to have the right skill set to build analytics as products rather than analytics as services. And when you come out to our products, we typically would require skill set like DevOps engineers, MLOps engineers, DevOps engineers, backend developers, software engineers, Python developers, UI UX developers, you name it, right? So having the right skill set is very important, right? For me, these are the four things, Maha, right? Having the right business context, understanding whether the problem statement is a solution that is a problem statement that can be solved using analytics or not. Third thing is having good understanding of data maturity and maybe having to make the right investments and wait for a year even to get to the right data maturity to start with a solution. And third thing is the composition of the team that you're building today to build analytics as products rather than analytics as services.
Brilliantly articulated, Vijay. Very nice. Now, you made in this particular answer, you made a statement saying data science is domain agnostic. Okay. Now, but having said that, you obviously need domain inputs and business collaboration to make a success out of it. Right?
Yeah.
And now, you have worked in TESCO, which is a retailer, Honeywell, which is a B2B industrial products company, AB InBev, which is one of the largest brewing companies and consumer products company, for lack of a better word, right? So everyone is almost different in context, right? So how did you go about building business empathy, situational awareness for yourself and your team? What were some of the approaches that you took to learn for yourself and also ensure that business was willing to collaborate with you?
Yeah. That's a very interesting question, Mahaa, indeed, right? One thing that we need to be very cognizant is that the colleagues that we work with, they don't come from a technology background, right? In TESCO, we're looking at colleagues who are 25 years in buying profession or in your customer services, or you name it, right? Your logistics or your supply or your sales or your marketing, and they are not very open to collaborate always with a new technology or new breed of science that we're talking about, right? Because to explain to somebody that there could be a better way of doing something which he or she is doing for 25 years in a specific way, it doesn't always go good with everyone, right? So first and foremost, Maha, for us is building the right partners, right? And giving them also the view of what is in it for them, right? By partnering with a central function, right? There's a very interesting term which is used very popularly these days, which is called data leader. Data leader.
Data leader. Okay.
Data leader. Data leader is not the data engineering leader. Data leader is anybody who understands the value of data that he or she is sitting on, and knows how to partner with the right talent or right skill set of people to create value out of the data that that person is owning, right? That's what the data leader is. So today, when you're looking at senior positions and all, people always look at how good is that colleague or candidate in monetizing the data that they have by partnering with the right people, creating the right solutions that makes a big difference to the business, right? So we always try to explain to our stakeholders that what is in it for them from this partnership. Because sometimes what happens is, in many companies, especially, data science is a centralized function. It doesn't sit always in the domains. It's a central function, right? The popular thought process is, why should I outsource a success story, right? Building a data science team is not it's not a big task anymore, right? Anybody can build a 10-member data science team. It's not like, a central team can only own a data science team. Assume I'm talking to a logistics director who definitely has a problem statement or pain point. The second thought that comes to that person's mind is, but I know that's a big problem statement. It could make a big difference. But why should I partner with anyone? Why can't I build my own team and own that success story for myself? So this is where we need to really be strategic in explaining that we are in the business of making our partner successful, not in the business of making ourselves successful, right? Our success is a byproduct of the success that you are creating for your ecosystem or your partners, right? People will only partner with you when you see that they have something in it which could make them successful, right? Sometimes what happens is the central functions or data science functions are seen as the team who wants to run away with the cherry of the cake, right? You give a problem statement to them, they will solve it, they will present everywhere. The limelight only goes to to that analytics team, not to the domain experts that partnered with us and worked so hard with us, right? So that mindset should change completely. We should be in the business of making our partners successful, and our success is just a byproduct of the success that we create for our partners, right? That's a very important thing. Second thing, Maha, is change management, right? Think about it. Many of the centers are now becoming POC centers, proof of concept centers. What happens is there's a very enthusiastic leaders that we have, right? And who come on board, who think really big and say that, there are a lot of problem statements that we could solve using data, using analytics, and they create prototypes on how to solve a specific problem statement using analytics than the conventional way of doing it. But the thing is that there is no passionate owners who will implement or adapt those solutions in the zones and make value out of it. The toughest part for me, in analytics, is not creating the solution, which probably the easiest part. The toughest part is getting the right data set and context, first of all. That's the toughest part before doing any analytics. And once the solution is built, the toughest part is how we're going to sell this to the zones and business, right? How we're going to ensure that we implement these solutions and they create value for the solutions. And that's why change management becomes so important in analytics. 2 years back, if you think about it, again, the investments on analytics entirely sat with the central team or the analytics team, put it that way. No investments were made on change management, right? And because of which, many solutions, great solutions indeed, never saw the light of the day or never got implemented because there was not enough people who can influence, right, the right stakeholders. And that necessarily it's not easy sitting in an offshore center like in India. You have to be part of that business in that zone, working with the stakeholders, showing them how the system is working, how it's changing the process, how it's transforming the process, and what value it's creating for the process, for the business and the colleagues, right? And get more and more adapters and more believers for a solution. So that's the second part. Change management is super, super important. That again, you can only do by having great connects with the business, passionate owners who share the same dream as we are seeing sitting in a center for the business.
Great, nicely put. Now, building on your answer, my next question is, so what you're talking about is, really looking at data sets, looking at possibly breakthrough solutions using analytics, and then finding passionate owners or, business stakeholders, who can actually implement in the business and create value out of it, right? So in some sense here, the solution is created by the foresight of the analytics team, if you will, working with the business and, doing a sell in terms of how it can create value for them. Equally, there is the other part because any business is fraught with, fires and challenges today, right? There is a immediacy of crisis that every business leader is continuously, confronted with, right? Now, so if you look at the spectrum of analytics, on one side, you have, analytics, which is more tactical, which is here and now, issues that you need to solve for today for the business to stay afloat, which is what most business leaders are focused on. And on the other side is really understanding the long-term strategic view, creating breakthrough innovation or products or services, which is slightly long-termish, but has got strategic value, right? Have you experienced these challenges in terms of how leaders and businesses are connecting with you? And what do you think is broadly the spread in terms of split in terms of projects along the spectrum? And how do you manage to reprioritize them to ensure that business continues to stay engaged with you?
Yeah. So Maha, one good thing that's happening today in any business is the shifting the KPIs or the targets that people are taking, right? Why I'm saying this is 20 years back or 15 years back, all we could hear everywhere was where first quality, first time, whatever the on time and quality, right?
So on time, every time, and quality, yeah.
On time, every time, and quality, right? This was the only key KPI for measuring people, right, in different businesses. But gone are those days because the business was streamlined. solutions or process to such an extent that making a mistake is not easy these days. Not adhering to on-time delivery is not easy because we have so much of efficiencies that you have put to the processes. TESCO is a great example, right? TESCO, I would say, is the most well-oiled machinery when it comes to the operations, right? The way they are streamline their operations, the way they are lean at their way of operating, all of that. It's a great example of that because it's a 1% EBITDA business or 2% EBITDA business. They cannot afford any additional fat in any of their processes. So one thing today is that everybody, right, irrespective of which job you are doing, you are measured on value creation. That's the biggest shift I'm seeing in today's business, right? Nobody's measured on, efficiencies as in on time, first time, quality, all of that. Those are given today, right? It's like, that nobody will even take it as a target because that's supposed to be 100% to start with. Nobody is taking that as a key target. In most of the business I'm seeing today, at every level, whichever job family you belong to, your biggest KPI is value creation. What value you as a leader, as a colleague is bringing to the table? How are you transforming your processes? How are you creating, how are you changing the jobs that are very traditionally operated to a lean way of operations, right? And that is a big boost for us in analytics fraternity because in today's century, every transformation is data-led transformation. You think about it, right? RPA is data-led. Digital transformation is data-led. Analytics transformation is data-led. So there is no transformation today without touching data, right? Gone are the days where process optimizations were a big thing. But even today, process optimizations are done by analytics platforms, right? There are platforms like Celonis who will streamline, who will do the data mining and tell where you have bottlenecks in your process, right? So that's what I'm saying. Every transformation of today's world is data-led, right? When that is the case, it's all about creating the right awareness with your stakeholders on what data can enable for you, because that's something that they may not know, right? With their operations way of working, right? Because they are used to do in a certain job in a certain way for many years. So it's a huge responsibility of the leadership to educate the leaders on what possibilities data could open up for them, right? Whether it's a digital transformation that they want to bring, or analytics transformation, or RPA transformation, you name it. The basic raw material everywhere is data, right? And for any business, right, there is an aspect about what are we going to do in 5 years to substantially change the business strategy, and what am I going to do today to keep me alive, right? To stay alive. And that mix is very important, right? Because, and most of these companies, right? I'm talking about most of the companies, their maturity to the analysis journey itself is not that long, right? We are looking at 10 years of history or last 5 to 10 years of history for most of the companies into analytics space. Not everybody is, a 20 years, experience into analytics. If you think about the very popular retailers or the BFSI companies, they may have the history of 10 plus years or 20 years of experience in streamlining the data and using analytics and all of that. But most of the other companies, it's literally 5 to 10 years of experience that you're talking about. And they are also in nascent stages, right? So it's very important that you create solutions that addresses today's problem statements, today's leakages, today's sales opportunities, today's marketing opportunities, today's logistics opportunities, right? And equally, for any leader, it's very important to create a pipeline for the future, right? The challenge with a lot of these futuristic things, Maha, right? Like rightfully said, right? I'll give an example, right? Integrated planning, right? In logistics, I'll give one example, right? Or MROI in marketing, right? Or the sales strategies, including your algorithmic sales and all of that. Your key challenge would be data, because you are trying to build an ecosystem which is fully connected through all the processes. And that maturity you may not have today. And believe me, in most of the cases, you don't have that maturity. So while you spend your 70 or 60% of time on solving what is relevant for the company today, a substantial amount, right? Maybe 20 to 30 to 40% of your time also need to be on understanding what it takes to building next level of next generation solutions, what sort of data sets is required, what sort of frequencies is required in the data, right? And building that strategy is very important, right? Because think about it, Maha, right? Most of these ERP systems, right? You can see the data, but you can't feel the data, right? Which means that data is there, but you cannot access the data. So how will you create the right data strategy, data lakes, right? All of that to ensure that data is accessible for the practitioners to use. Second thing is mapping the entire process and understanding what data set is today missing, which all process requires a digitization so that data starts coming through the digitization and data is also accumulated. So that is the key. So even in our current role, in my current role, at least 30% of my time is on understanding what is the future. And future is, in most cases, it's all about bringing a holistic view of the entire process. So today we are trying to solve, uh, short-term pain points, right? You have out of stock, okay? You have obsolescence, right? You're not able to predict the sales of your pricing of your raw materials. But if you take put it this way, very simple thing is improvement in your sales, right? That's your end goal. There could be 10 different streams that could contribute to that. Your marketing strategy is one. Your partner strategy is another one, because we companies like us work with big companies like TESCO and Walmarts of the world. Your partnerships and how we're going to use that data to build bigger solutions is important one. Our upsell cross-sell strategy is important, right? Our everything in that space is important. So today we are looking at each of these solutions in isolation. Somebody's trying to solve a problem in pricing. Somebody's trying to solve a problem in discount. Somebody's trying to solve a problem in upsell. Somebody's trying to solve a problem in cross-sell. Everybody is doing it in silos. But holistically, we should be looking at a higher level, right? You're looking, say that my why is my sales improvement, or based on last 10 years of experience, what has worked and what hasn't worked. How will you create a solution that is bottoms up, looking at all these different elements, connect them all together, and create an engine that makes the right recommendations for the business. And that again, right? Sometimes it comes with the maturity, comes with the experience. Sometimes if you think that I'm going to do only that holistic way of solving a problem, you may never get there, right? You have to build the basic building blocks and then start thinking of how will I have an integrated platform that does the entire sales strategy for my company, right? Obviously, 30% of your time should go on that. But for me, the immediate need is to keep keep business successful today, right? While building the right strategies for the future, right? So the focus needs to be on especially in the companies where your maturity is not beyond 5 to 10 years. There is a lot of white spaces that you need to explore and create value for the business. So in our world, 70% goes to creating solutions for problem statement which I know is relevant for today, and 30% goes on creating long-term data strategies, right? That's the biggest challenge, building the data strategies so that you can create a platform, create an ecosystem that can look things at a more holistic level and start thinking of end-to-end platforms, end-to-end solutions, rather than solving,
in silos.
smaller problem statements in isolation.
Nice. Yeah, so I think the very, very clearly and nicely articulated saying you need to focus on strategy, but in terms of what you want to solve for the future, but you need to get the infrastructure ready in terms of digitization, the data exhaust, the data availability and all that to be in place so that as you start, traversing that journey, you also have all these building blocks available to you.
Yeah, just to add, Maha, right? Just to add one more thing is, it's a psychological field, but when you are investing like 500K on 10 different solutions by 10 different teams, it doesn't come as a one big ask. But we suddenly go and say that I need 20 million to solve a problem statement, right? The sellability is very less, right? For that, you need to prove that this 500,000 solutions are working. They are all giving great ROI. That gives you the confidence to ask that question and give the confidence to leaders that, okay, that such a big investments make sense. So that's why I said you need to make yourself deserving before you start seeing bigger dreams and bigger execution plans. The important thing is to solve, smaller problem statements, prove that they're having great ROI, and integrating all of this together makes even bigger ROI, right? So that's why selling to the leadership also is important, right? If you go with this holistic view and say that I can solve a great problem statement, but give me 25 million, no business will be accommodative enough to accept that.
No, I totally agree. Totally agree. So yeah, you have to create, early success for, and success breeds success, right? So once the
Exactly.
business has a lot more confidence in what the team can deliver, then, they are willing to, cut larger checks, right?
Exactly.
Having said that, there is also a challenge. So, while you have to go through this, you also have the thing in terms of when you have, let's say there is you spoke of revenue growth or whatever. There are multiple factors that, impact revenue growth. It could be pricing, it could be partnerships, it could be product quality, availability, range, etc., right? Multiple things, right? And there are multiple teams working on each of this, right? And everybody starts saying that, okay, I have done this particular project. This has actually impacted the business, right?
Exactly.
And this is this famous saying in GE when Six Sigma projects were run, that sometimes the cost saving, if you add up on all the projects, sometimes in those Six Sigma halcyon days of Six Sigma, the total savings put together added up would be higher than the turnover of the company itself. That was a joke going around.
Absolutely.
And I think I heard in one of your interviews where you also mentioned something similar, saying that you went somewhere and somebody said that we have, that center had delivered 2 billion of impact or cost savings for the business, and you couldn't just connect the dots because you didn't think the company was big enough to actually save $2 billion or whatever, right? So sometimes attribution becomes very important. Otherwise, if you just add it up, right? Because there's a lot of overlapping benefits that is happening, right? So,
exactly.
And it is very, very applicable in the growth side of analytics. On the cost saving part, it is still fairly clear, but in terms of growth, it is very difficult to attribute. So are there any approaches that you have taken either in terms of attribution analytics or in terms of the way you have created design of experiments in terms of projects to be able to isolate the benefits to a larger degree?
Again, a great question, Maha, right? Credibility is a big thing for any organization or analytics organization, super important, right? What happens today is, like you rightfully said, everybody who does a solution for top line is attributing that success or growth to one specific solution. So the cross-sell upsell team is saying, I made this 2 million uplift. Another team in pricing is saying, I made this uplift. And everybody's adding this 2 million, right? And suddenly this 2 million becomes 20 because 10 different teams claim this 2 million, right? So, and you rightfully said, in bottom line, it's pretty straightforward because it has to come out of the P&L, right? And without proper science, nobody can take out money from P&L, right? Which is very clear. But in top line, it becomes a big problem statement. How will you attribute the right value to the solutions that you're building? And this was a big challenge for us. It was a big challenge for us also. Having the right value creation framework was a very important thing. So what we started, Maha, 2 years back is we built a framework, right? At the start, it was not very data science or data science heavy as such. What we did is we had introduced some certain standard processes in place, right? For example, any solution which is created an uplift, it has to go through a test versus control methodology, right? To understand what uplift it's giving. It needs to be approved by the zone FP&A and the business and the finance to ensure that everybody accepts the numbers and all of that. That was the first step, right? But what we found is that even after doing that, the numbers were getting challenged because a lot of people felt that the numbers are highly inflated, if you like, right? So in 2022 onwards, a big project that we are doing is on building a platform on desktops. Desktops is a platform in an integrated platform that we're building for ABI to look at to help us do experiments to understand the impact coming of individual solutions. Because there are 10 initiatives happening in sales analytics, right? Or 20 initiatives happening in marketing analytics. How will you take out the impact of one solution, taking out the noise of another 19 or 9 becomes a problem statement. And believe me, Maha, on this, sometimes the effort required to quantify sometimes is much more than the effort required to build the solution.
Correct.
Right? The kind of science that you need to put in removing the noise and understanding what exactly a solution has given or added value to a specific problem statement is sometimes more complicated than building an individual solution. But these investments are very much required because most of the organizations are capex-driven organizations, right? Every year we have to pitch in, and that's how you get your funding for your solutions, right? And ROI is a big problem, big leading indicator in when somebody is making a decision on capex investments. And think about a place where you are saying 10x ROI, and the leadership doesn't believe that 10x is 10x, right? So what we have seen is that by building the right science in place, putting the right platforms in place. In our case, DevOps platform which is an experimental platform. We can do all the experiments with respect to what uplift, what growth, what contribution each worker has provided, right? It may have significantly reduced the numbers that we've been quoting, but those numbers are credible numbers, right? So nobody's really expecting a 20 times ROI, right? Only in analytics we talk about 20x ROI, right? It's not known to the market, right? In a business, payoff in 2 years also is seen as a great investment, right? We started making the ROIs too big, right? So even if your 20x ROI moves to 5x ROI, it doesn't matter because still you are giving great value to the business compared to any other investments that the business could do, right? But at least we are quoting a number which everybody believes in, everybody agrees to, right? And everybody finds have faith in it, right? So right, I think it's very important. Otherwise, when it's early stages, right? When it's early stages, you are honeymoon period of 2, 3, 4 years when you're building a COE, right? Where you're selling the dreams. But after that honeymoon period is over, without very credible science and very credible experiments to prove the real value, you don't find the kind of takers that you want to exponentially grow your reach in a company of what we can do with data.
Nice. Very clearly articulated. Now, Vijoe, you were in TESCO, which is a retailer, club card program, one of the, best loyalty programs, if you will, in the UK and worldwide. So a lot of customer data, understanding of customers, end consumers, their choices, their tastes, their, transaction history, all that available to understand customers better and then fine tune what you want to offer, right? AB InBev is a brewing company. I'll call it a consumer product company because you're selling through the Tesco's and the Walmart of the world, right? You're one removed from the end customer in some sense. You sell to a retailer who in turn sells to the end consumer, right? Now, but then in the world of data, you need to understand your end consumers as much as you can because you can create a lot more value, right? Because data exhaust is only increasing, right? So just wanted to understand. So given your experience of having been in TESCO and now being in AB InBev, what are some of the approaches that consumer goods companies can do to have a little more understanding of the end consumer, which in turn helps them, better their business? Also, what do you see is the importance of outside in perspective from data? I mean, most of us have data which is internally created and we use it, right? How important is ability to bring in outside in data important? And can you talk of some use cases if, how
sure.
it can be leveraged. Yeah.
No, definitely, Maha, right? The race is in understanding the customer behavior, right? That's a whole crux of all of
Yeah.
this, right? It's how will you understand the customer behavior? That's the crux of everything. And that you rightfully said cannot be done by looking at your own data sets, right? You need to understand what's happening in the market with all of your competitors and all of the other key players in the market, right? You know, data is one of the most, it's one of the most costly commodity, if you like, right? If you ask me, companies like Google or Amazon or all these companies, Facebook, you name it, right? The key asset is data, right? What they are really trading is the data that they have, right? How much they can know about your customers, their liking, their preferences. That's a real business model behind most of the most successful. If you take the top five most successful companies in the world, at least three of them, their main asset is the data, not the technology that they built. That asset is the actual data that they acquired of the customers, right? And that's why you partnering with the right data partners also becomes super important in today's world, right? Even during our TESCO days, Maha, right, we used to use IRI and Nielsen data extensively, right? But the reach of IRI or Nielsen data that we saw in 10 years back is much different to what the penetration that they are providing or the layer that they're providing today, right? So obviously we are also partnering with a lot of this third party data providers, name it IRI, Nielsen, IHS, to name a few, right? And in the beer world, there are a lot of companies which again focuses on selling or providing data which is even more niche. There are companies which helps you get data on obviously it's a partnership, right, that we need to enter with those companies which gives information on at a pork level. The pork is an ultimate point of consumption, like a restaurant chain, right? A restaurant chain. What is moving? What is not moving? What are we people buying together with your product or your competitor's product, right? At that level, even today, data is available, right? Which means that at a demographic level, right? What are the SKUs that people are finding interesting, right? A great example is if you know with a big restaurant chain or a pub chain, right, or a club chain or whatever, if you know what are the common things in a basket, right? A specific customer, when they buy your beer, right? What are the things that they buy together, right? There's an opportunity for you to create an upsell or cross-sell opportunity with the partnership with that restaurant or a pork chain. It's a mutual benefit, right? We say that, guys, let's come to an agreement that we'll create a campaign for a pork chain which got like 1,000 outlets across Americas or 2,000 outlets across Americas, which means that it's mutually beneficial for both the parties, right? It benefits the pork chain, it benefits our business. Another example, Maha, is we're building a solution called category analytics. There, the key idea is helping the retailers grow their category, right? In that process, our sales also improving. So what we are telling, for example, to a Tesco or a Walmart or a Target is that we are giving very granular insights on based on the positioning of the shop, the demographics, the people they live, their characteristics, all of that. What sort of SKUs should be kept, right? What are people's liking? At what price points they are buying it? And all this information we are providing to the retailers. Sometimes this is something that a retailer should do for his own growth. What we're doing today is that we are doing that piece of work for our key partners, not for everyone, our key Big 10 partners, for example, right? We are creating a solution that tells them what should be the ideal category strategy that helps you grow your sales, right? And our growth again is an outcome of their growth again, Maha, right? For example, if and in some cases, what we are seeing is that these insights has killed our categories also in certain spaces, right? It's not always a plus. When you are opening up the insights, you find that some of your own SKUs needs to be delisted because that itself is not working in your favor or in the favor of that retailer. So it's a two-way street. I'm not doing something which is only benefiting us, right? We are doing certain things which is benefiting a big retailer like TESCO or Walmart. At the same time, it's benefiting me, right? As in the company, right? So I'm very proud to say that the solution that we built, I cannot give the numbers out, but our growth, our benefit is only 20% of the benefit that the retailers saw. But how does it matter, right? We are in the business of making our retailers or our partners successful, right? When they become successful, we also become successful, right? So very prompt question, Maha, right? Partnering with the right strategy partners is important. Partnering with the right retail groups that work with us, hawk chains. I'm talking about chains which are like extensive coverage in different parts of the world, and America, South Americas, Middle Americas, North Americas, and all of that. Partnering with them is important because those partnerships gives us access to the data that helps us understand how people buy our products, right? What they buy it along with, right? At what price points they buy, what sort of discounts they like, what promotions they like, and that gives us more and more information to create a more tailored, more personalized, offerings to our customers.
Very nicely articulated. So essentially you're saying, I mean, my belief was that it is retailers who have to feed data back to consumer good companies, but you're saying right now, larger consumer good companies have now got the maturity to also understand market level demographics and in some
Exactly.
sense, contribute to the retailer as well. It may lead to a level of either SKU or product group cannibalization or possibly even brand cannibalization. But you're saying it definitely improves the level of relationship because if your
Exactly.
insights is helping the retailer, then the quality of relationship is beyond transactional. It becomes a
Of
lot
course,
more
right? Of
engaged.
course. Of course. Of course. Think about the volume that's being sold by Tesco or Walmart. It's huge, right? Yeah.
Very nice. Excellent. Okay. Now let me get into a little more technical stuff, so to speak. Now this whole, deep learning models are coming. People are talking of NLP, computer vision, all the type of stuff. To me, as I see them, they are all training models. It's to an extent, it's like a black box, right? You give a output, you keep training the model, and the model eventually will give you some output, which you measure from a practical perspective to see is it really giving improvement in terms of accuracy or prediction, level connect or whatever it is, right? However, business obviously for various reasons of for reasons of control, for reasons of being able to justify investment, for reasons of regulations, needs to really understand, can you explain what are the input factors if you change, the output will actually come out, and what is really happening. It is not good enough to say if these four things I put in and this is what will come out. They want to understand the logic behind what is really there, right? Now the minute you bring this in, what means is also they're looking at it from a controllables perspective, right? There are things that they can control and they would like to control that, and that's why they need to understand it a lot more, right? So for example, if I say range and I say life stage of customers coming in, life stage of customers, the business can't control. It is what it is. I mean, eventually you can control, but today if somebody's walking in, you can't control that. It's a family, then it's a family, right? But the range can possibly control to ensure that the family has the best experience and buys more type of stuff, right? So that's why for them, if I put family stage and range into a particular black box, they're always worried. They want to know, explain what is really moving what, right? But the point is, what happens is when you do this type of stuff, for example, if you go to decision tree, explainability is far better, but the accuracy may not be as good as a deep learning model, where the accuracy will be far better, but the explainability will be very poor, right? Are these challenges that you have faced in your experience so far, or come across others who have spoken to you about it? And what are some of the trade-offs you see here?
There are solutions which requires explainability, and there are solutions which doesn't require explainability. I'll give one example, right? A solution of ours which uses the images coming from all the freezers, all the chest freezers, all the in all the bars and on restaurants and all, we supply the our branded freezers where you keep your beer, and you're supposed to keep the beer in a specific way that helps the brand building, right? There's no point in somebody keeping the beer with the price tag at the front and the main tag inside. So there's one solution that generally looks at the images and tells which box are adhering to our branding standards and which box are not adhering to our branding standard. An example. Another example is in marketing, physical marketing. Companies needs to give a proof of what they have done. For example, a contract could be for putting a neon Budweiser light in 100,000 outlets in US. They need to put a proof that they have done it. And many a times what happens is they don't, without doing the right job, they manipulate that image. They put the same image from California for a store in Carolina, North Carolina, right? And we need to identify who's doing a fraud. These are examples where you don't need explainability at all, right? You just need a solution, right? And ideally a deep learning solution, because those kind of solutions can only be deep learning, right? Which tells that, it's a black and white answer that I want, right? Who's adhering to, who's not adhering to, who's doing a fraud, who's not doing a fraud. I don't have to understand why he's doing a fraud, right? So these are great use cases, right? Especially in video, image, text, right? These are use cases where deep learning uses where explainability is not the score, right? Where the challenge comes is when you use deep learning techniques for the regular problem statements, or where you use deep learning on to structured data problem statements, right? For example, demand forecasting, right, or P&L forecasting, right? The biggest accuracy in a sales forecast is great, but beyond that, what the department would want to know is what are the 5 different factors that has contributed to it? How much of I can control those five different parameters to avoid such a scenario in the future, right? And that's where deep learning gets a hit, right? Because sometimes deep learning, what it does is it becomes super black box. Obviously, it gives right accuracy, right? But the explainability may not be great, right? So it's not helping us to fix that problem statement or fix that root cause, right? And that's where sometimes you need to use a lot of explainable AI solutions, right? Even in deep learning, now you're exploring solutions which is more explainable in that sense. That's one thing. In certain areas, we are even gone back from deep learning techniques to more traditional techniques because explainability takes a bigger significance than just giving a 99% accuracy of an outcome, right? So it's a trade-off that we need to think about, Maha, right? What is important in the solution? Is it just outcome that's important? Then deep learning definitely takes a huge advantage. But when it's explainability, either we need to explore explainable AI techniques in deep learning, or sometimes we may have to agree on solutions which doesn't give the greatest accuracy but more explainability. And second thing, Maha, is sometimes, right, people get so obsessed with this accuracy numbers, right? So you need to know what accuracy levels are good for you, right? In many of the solutions, a good 80 to 85% accuracy is more than enough to understand the gauge the health of the business or do the right things for the business, right? Only 1% of the business are in a business where you're selling something like a drug which will either kill or keep the person alive, right? Where you cannot take any chance. Accuracy needs to be like 99.999 or 100%.
Six Sigma levels, yeah.
6 Sigma or 12 Sigma levels, like in the airline industry, right? But a normal business, right? You also shouldn't get obsessed too much about the accuracy levels, right? A good 80% accuracy could be good enough for a sales problem statement or a logistics or a supply or a procurement problem statement. It may not call for 99%, 97% accuracy. So that's also something that you need to think about. Adding that additional investment on accuracy, is it going to give you back in returns or not? And in many times, it plateaus after a certain level, right? A 80% accurate solution and a 95% accurate solution, the delta value that you're going to get may not be, not necessarily in all the use cases. In many use cases, the delta become, if you consider the investment that you made, may not be big enough, is all I'm saying.
Yeah. So you have to look at the point of diminishing returns and, and then pick. I think beautifully articulated examples of where explainable AI may not be required at all. And for wherever explainable AI is required, like you said, you have to look at the accuracy levels and the point of diminishing returns and not really,
Exactly.
get too stuck into the accuracy levels. Yeah, very nicely articulated. Thanks.
Exactly. Because,
I would have loved to have a, go ahead.
No, think about it, right? In deep learning, especially, the system creates its own variable, right? Those variables are only known to the system, right? Because each variable is an engineered variable, right? One variable could be a mix of 10 different variables. That explaining that one variable it has created with 20 another variables, it's impossible for anybody to do, right?
Correct. Correct. You have to look at collinearity. What is the level of impact each has on each of them? Nice.
Yeah.
So I actually would have loved to have a lot more, but I think we are up for time. So I will, jump to the last question. You've now, you're a analytics leader for the last 17 years, and everybody seems to be saying data science and analytics is the place to go. What would your top 2 or 3 advice be for a, aspiring data analyst, data scientist, or anybody who is actually, starting off their professional certification journey? What should, to be a good data scientist or analyst or be successful in this space? What are the top 2 things you think people should focus on, develop, imbibe, etc.?
First and foremost, right, data science is a very democratic space in the sense that, 10 years, 15 years back, the definition of data scientist was you should have a master's in economics or MSc in statistics, right? 5 years back, the definition was you should have an engineering background or a maths background. Fast forward to 2023, anybody could become a data scientist as long as you're willing to invest your time, right, in learning, right? Second thing is, I keep on telling this to all the students when I go to campuses, right? Is if you become a lawyer, you can only hone your skills if you get cases, right? That's how you get your skill as a lawyer, right? If you're a doctor and if you're a surgeon, you only learn that skill by doing. Somebody should be willing to get that surgery done by you to learn, right? Data science is one science, right? One science. If you learn without any issues, you can apply that for many things. Put it this way: if you go to Kaggle or UCLA, there are tens of thousands of problem statements which addresses a gambit of solutions in, you name it, from upsell, your logistics, your procurement, your marketing. What I'm saying is you have a lot of opportunities to experiment and learn more and more. You don't have to get a job itself, right, to get learning, right? These days I've seen students who take even a break of a year and all, just to, after their education and all, right, they take a year break just to improve their scoring in Kaggle, right? Companies today recruit just by looking at the Kaggle performance of a candidate. They don't really look at even whether that person has worked 20 years in a company or 10 years or in a company. It doesn't matter to a new age company, right? So that's first thing. Data science is a very democratic space as long as you're willing to invest time, right? And you should be always willing to upgrade yourselves, because yesterday's technology is not today's technology, and tomorrow's technology is not going to be today's technology, right? As long as you love that, continuous learning, right? It's a great place to be, right? But one thing you should always know is, people always see data science as this very fancy job of, somebody who's coding from morning to night, sitting with 3, screens, all of that, right? That's not really a data scientist world, right? Probably a 30% of your job is on the actual coding, right? Like I said, it started the session also, right? A significant sum goes to understanding the problem statement, understanding the domain, right? Understanding the data set. What is this data telling, right? Believe me, half of the things in SAP, which is a very popular ERP system, half of the information there has no context unless you put a lot of investments and a lot of investments in time to understanding what each of this table is telling you, right? So a lot of time goes into that, right? Then comes to the very boring job of cleaning the data. There is no such data there is no such company which is data rich. If you go to Google, also the employees they will be saying, "Oh, we don't have good data," right? Just as an example, right? So there is no company which is data rich. There's a lot of elements about data cleaning, right? Feature engineering, feature selection, building experiments, then finding that okay, we don't have that variable. How to find the data of that variable, right? So 30% is probably your core coding job. 70% is your leadership skill set, your ability to work with the business, ability to understand the business problems and statements, understand the data problem, data landscape, working with data engineers to understand how to get the data on board, right? Once a solution is built or a POC is built, going back to the business, explaining it to them, selling it to them, right? You are a salesperson also in that sense, right? Getting it adapted, getting the investments to build an even bigger solution, which is more of a platform rather than a one-off solution. So don't, at least in inwards, in a center like us, right? I can definitely talk about centers like us, right? If you're in a service organization, maybe there are different layers, right? There's a person who's selling, person who's doing the context, all of that, right? But if you're working inside a company, right? You are the salesperson, you are the pre-sales person, you are the marketing person, you are the coder, you are the data engineer, you are your UI UX developer, right? Everything is you. You are the program manager, you are the product owner, everything is you, right? So don't think that data science is all about coding and being the best coder, right? Especially if you're working inside an organization, trying to solve their own problem statement. It's a mix of your technical capability and equally your leadership capability, behavioral skill set, right? How you operate, how you build great friends in the business, great partners in the business, art of working with them, most importantly, the art of making them successful rather than making you successful, which is a byproduct of their success anyway. So think like that, right? You are your data science is a vehicle today, right? It's a vehicle to transform the business, right? Or transform the business using the data, right? So definition of data science can keep on changing, right? Maha, you would know, right? 15 years back, Informatica and all in the BI dashboards where that was seen as the biggest thing in the business, right? We have enterprise reporting, that was analytics. Then a basic regression became analytics. Today, deep learning and generative AI is being talked about analytics of today. So definition of analytics, definition of the platforms, and will keep on changing. What matters is you have the mindset to understand a problem statement and that belief that you can make a difference to the company, right? So that transformative mindset is very important to stay relevant in any business. And last thing I would say to all the youngsters is technologies will come and go, but great problem solvers, right? They will be always in demand. Irrespective of the platform, irrespective of the tool. If you're a person who knows the art of understanding pain points of a business and the art of building a solution with respect to the technology, you will be always in demand, right? That's how you build a long-term career, right? So that's what I would definitely tell, right? Have that mindset that I'm going to change something today. I'm going to transform something today. I'm going to bring a new dollar to the business, right? That mindset is very important.
Nice. So transformative mindset, which is a combination of soft skills, ability to engage with people, and having a focus saying I will solve something for today, right? Problem solving.
Nice. And what's a guarantee that data science will be always be a coder's world, right? We're already talking about generative AI, right? Tomorrow it may not be a coder's world, right? BI is not more a coder's world. My 12-year-old son can build his own dashboards in Power BI, right? Tomorrow's AI tools could be even more user friendly, right? So it's all about that your fire for creating value for the business, transforming something.
No, I totally agree. I've been, as I'm getting old, I'm trying various things. So with ChatGPT coming for me to I've always had teams creating dashboards or whatever insights for me. And so as I started on my own, I wanted to figure out how do I do this. And then, I've been figuring out that ChatGPT, you can actually get it to write you codes, which you can actually then paste in HTML and graphs out of it. Right.
Exactly.
So yeah, you're right. Your things are changing. So it is required that people continue to stay, like you said, with a transformative mindset, which is again having the right people skills, engagement skills, being curious to learn more and solve.
Exactly.
Nice.
Exactly.
So Vijoe, thank you so much for making time for this expert talks session. Um, I mean, your answers are both, practical and I really enjoyed your clarity of thought in the way you approach the type of problem that you're trying to solve in a known organization. Also, the way you look at analytics and data science at large. I'm sure our listeners will thoroughly enjoy and learn from this session. Thank you once again for making time. It's a pleasure talking to you.
Thanks, Maha. Really appreciate the opportunity. I had learned a lot from you. Maha was leading the transformation, right, innovation transformation team in TESCO. So Maha is one of my earlier gurus in this space even, right? So thanks for this opportunity, Maha.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much, Vijoe.
Thank you.